Can Huan, blessed with both beauty and talent, truly outshine all in the imperial harem and enjoy everlasting favor? Lying on the couch, I watched as Xianling busily directed Jinxi and the others here and there. One moment he asked Lu Zhu to bring tea for me, then he wanted Huanbi to prop up the pillow so I could lean comfortably. Soon after, he instructed Jingqing to close the windows to keep the wind away from me, and then he sent Xiao Yunzi to fetch a softer silk quilt to cover me. The room was bustling with people scurrying about, and I couldn't help but suppress a smile. I gently pushed him and said, "There's no need to make such a fuss over me, causing everyone to be so flustered." He tapped his forehead and said, "I've indeed been foolish. The last thing you need during pregnancy is noise." Then he told Jinxi, Xiao Yunzi and the others, "You all can leave now." I quickly objected. "Hey, if you send them all away, who will attend to me?" He held my hand and kissed it gently, saying softly, "How about I attend to you?" I laughed and said, "What would people think if they saw this? They might think I was being presumptuous." I straightened his crown, which had become slightly askew from running, and said, "You've heard of concubines being pregnant before. Why are you so overly joyous this time? There's also Du Liangdi." He wrapped his arms around my shoulders and said, "Our child cannot be compared to others." He gently rubbed my injured arm and added, "You really are too selfless. Even if you had no child of your own, to rush to save Du Liangdi and injure yourself, how would that be all right?" I gazed distantly at a bunch of peach blossoms placed on the table, their blooms as delicate as youth, and smiled. I wasn't solely saving her, I was saving the royal offspring in her womb. He was moved and hugged me tightly, his slightly prickly beard gently grazing my cheek as he whispered, "Fool, even if she bears a child in my heart, she can't compare to you." I lowered my head, looking at the splendidly embroidered phoenix perched on a parasol tree on the silk quilt, a motif believed by the women in the palace to symbolize marital harmony and unity. The dense, dazzling colors could make one's eyes sore after a while. Du Liangdi might not compare to me, but what about Empress Hua? Xianling drew closer, the scent of heavenly craftsmanship growing stronger on him. My room was always filled with incense, but it couldn't mask the intense fragrance from him. Heavenly craftsmanship was Empress Hua's favorite perfume, exclusive to her. I held my breath quietly, trying not to detect the scent of Empress Hua on him. He remained unaware of the subtleties, his voice becoming even gentler. "I know these days have been tough on you because of Empress Hua." I smiled nonchalantly. "What grievances could I possibly have? Your Majesty promoted Feng Shui to a concubine, and I understand the reasons." He said, "You are wise and so is she. She surely understands why it was done, and I trust her completely." I replied, "Consort Jing has been very kind to me, and with her steady nature I feel at ease too." While we were speaking, Jinxi brought in some bird's nest soup. Xianling personally fed it to me, saying, "Now that you are a noble consort, protocol dictates that Yingxin Hall should be upgraded to Yingxin Palace. However, with your pregnancy, it's best to avoid construction work for now." I sipped the soup slowly and said, "I'm quite content here. Just changing the name from hall to palace is enough. The state treasury isn't as abundant as usual, so we should save where we can. There are more important things to spend on than this trivial matter of mine." The southwestern battles are progressing victoriously. Your brother has contributed significantly, displaying bravery and breaking through 10 enemy lines, even making the Prince of Runan wary of him. Once the war is won and our child is born, I'll promote you to Consort Huan and build a new palace for you to reside in. I smiled and shook my head. Tongli Palace is already wonderful, and I don't covet any consort title. I just wish for a peaceful life with you and our child. You and our child, I will protect you both," he said, kissing my forehead. "Don't worry. I've already assigned the right wing of the Southwestern Army to your brother to ensure safety. Thankfully, he hasn't disappointed me and has achieved much under the patronage of the Prince of Runan and the Murong family." I nodded. "I've heard of my brother's deeds, and that's exactly what I'm worried about. It seems he's reckless on the battlefield." He pondered for a moment. "That's also why I admire him. But since he's the only one left in your family, I'll arrange for him to return to court for marriage soon." He whispered in my ear, "Don't be afraid of anything. Just focus on staying healthy and safely delivering our child." I gently caressed my flat abdomen, his large and warm hand covering mine. It was almost unbelievable. This sudden and unexpected new life growing inside me. I slowly closed my eyes. After all, he is the father of the child in my womb, and he does care for me. I leaned against his shoulder in resigned comfort, a peach blossom blooming vividly on the table. His kisses became more intense, and feeling the warmth in my ear, I pushed him away. The imperial physician advised to be extra careful during the first 3 months. He blushed slightly, an innocence in his demeanor I rarely saw, which oddly comforted me. He stood up, took a large gulp from the teapot on the table, and calmed himself before smiling at me. My apologies, I forgot. He paused, his voice tinged with a melancholic satisfaction. Huan, I haven't seen you smile like this in days. I looked up, then lowered my gaze slowly, saying, Empress Hua is stunningly beautiful. Does your majesty even remember what my smile looks like? Unable to hold back the grievances of the past days, a tear slowly fell from my eye. He paused for a moment, then gently wiped the tears from the corners of my eyes with his hand, his voice soft yet firm. I won't make you sad again. I nodded in agreement, knowing that whether I felt sad or not was not entirely up to him, but his intention was comforting enough. Feeling a bit embarrassed, I said, I haven't been able to serve you these days, and you shouldn't always be by my side. Perhaps you should spend the night with another consort. He still held me and said, I won't disturb you anymore, I'll just quietly keep you company, is that alright? I too enjoyed the peace and tranquility of the moment. After a while, remembering the hint consort Deng gave before she left, I finally smiled and said, Lady Du was also quite frightened today. You should also pay her a visit. He thought for a moment and said, Alright, I will come to see you again tomorrow. The night deepened, and after the evening rain, there was a milky mist-like moonlight. Only a faint light like a bean was burning in the inner hall, mingling with the bright moonlight leaking through the jade-colored window screens to cast a shallow mix of light and shadow. Several pear trees in the courtyard bloomed as bright and clean as the moonlight, reflecting on the window screens. Indeed, the spring scenery in March was enchanting, not losing its charm even in the deep of night. Jinsi quietly kept me company under the lamp and said, Your Highness, I have opened the side gate as you instructed, but will Consort Deng really come? I replied, That I do not know. It was just my speculation. I smiled at Jinsi. Even if she doesn't come, it's still nice to watch the moon. Jinsi smiled. Your Highness seems in good spirits. I smiled back. I've been promoted to noble consort in charge of palace affairs, and you, serving by my side, will be promoted to a 5th grade official. Isn't that a cause for celebration? Jinsi responded. I owe my fortune to your Highness and the little prince. I said, It's just over a month old. How could we know if it's a princess or a prince? Jinsi lit the candle brighter with a wick trimmer. Although His Majesty doesn't say it, he's surely hoping for a prince, especially considering the current situation with the eldest prince. She stopped there looking at me. Your Highness, you were so bold to save Lady Du today, my heart nearly stopped. It was so dangerous, and you're not even close to Lady Du. I knew she was puzzled by my actions. I slowly stroked the elaborate embroidery on my robe, pondering for a long while before saying, What if I told you someone pushed me out there, would you believe me? I suspect the person who pushed me intended for me to crash into Lady Du's belly, causing her to miscarry, and then I would be blamed. I let out a cold laugh. A sinister plan to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Jinsi's reaction was not one of surprise, as if she had expected as much. The struggles in the harem often target pregnant consorts. Today it was Lady Du, tomorrow it might be you. Touching the luminously smooth white jade bracelet on my wrist, I remarked with a hint of self-mockery, I'm afraid Minnie will lose sleep tonight over my pregnancy. Jinsi replied respectfully, Without your Highness's pregnancy, they would still be losing sleep over Lady Du's condition. As we spoke, Xiao Yunzi's voice came from outside. Your Highness, they have arrived. I exchanged a glance with Jinsi, who then rose to open the door. With a soft creak, 2 women cloaked in dark green mantles slipped in, their veils fluttering lightly, almost mistaking them for night-roaming palace maids at first glance. One of them with a golden sparrow adorned with emerald beads in her hair, the beads gently swaying beneath the veil. I smiled and said, Consort Deng truly honors her promise. The figure lifted her veil, revealing a pallid face and faintly smiled. I'm truly unfit for this. The distance from the fragrance pavilion here isn't far. Yet it took me so long. I hurried to offer her a seat, signaling Xiao Yunzi to stand guard outside. She nodded in approval, seeing that I hadn't changed into sleepwear. Noble consort is wise, understanding my intentions. I said. I merely guessed. When your highness gestured towards the moon and held up one finger, I surmised you meant to visit at the first watch of the night. Hence I waited with a lit candle. After allowing her some time to rest and sip tea, I ventured. Your highness's nocturnal visit, does it concern today's events? She pressed her lips together, silent. Understanding she was wary of Jinxi's presence, I assured her. Everyone here is either my confidant or yours, your highness. Please speak freely. After a moment's contemplation, she produced a thin white silk thread adorned with 2 pearls and laid it before me. Please take a close look, noble consort. Unsure of her intent, I examined the thread by the candlelight and observed, this seems to be from the necklace Empress Hua wore today. As the words left my mouth, realization dawned upon me. A necklace strung with pearls, especially large ones like Empress Hua's, would typically require a 16-strand thread for strength and stability. Yet this thread had only 4 strands. I was inwardly alarmed and inquired, did your highness find this in the Empress's courtyard? Consort Deng's smile held a touch of irony. Indeed, while everyone was preoccupied with Lady Du and you, I found this. She sipped her tea and said slowly, Empress Hua overlooked a crucial detail. I raised an eyebrow. No wonder her pearl necklace broke so easily with a mere brush. She truly is cunning. The 2 remaining pearls on the thread glowed with a soft, cold light under the candle's flame. Reflecting on the day's peril in the Empress's courtyard, if Lady Du had indeed slipped on these scattered pearls, the consequences would have been dire. Instinctively, my hand went to my abdomen, where a new life was growing. The thought alone was terrifying. Grateful to Consort Deng, I sincerely thanked her. I am deeply appreciative of your highness's guidance. Her gaze softened upon my abdomen, and with a warmer expression, she sighed after a moment. I came firstly to warn you, and secondly, because the child in your womb is innocent. A child is the essence of a mother's vitality. I cannot bear to see harm come to it. Consider this as accumulating blessings for the child. I was moved by her sentiment. Despite Consort Deng's reclusive and indifferent demeanor, her affection for children was genuine. She bore no grudge against even those children born from women she disliked, such as the children of Consort Chao. I stood up respectfully and bowed to her. I deeply appreciate your highness's concern for the child within me. Consort Deng's eyes briefly reddened before she discreetly covered them with a handkerchief, regaining her composure to say, having said that, I'm not afraid to tell you another thing. I heard that the pearl necklace was a gift from Consort Chao to Empress Hua. After a moment of contemplation, even maintaining a smile felt burdensome. The hook on the armor was sharpened to a fine point. I gently caught the edge of the tablecloth with it and said, Consort Chao is more formidable than Empress Hua. She conceals her blades in the shadows, and I have narrowly escaped her traps on several occasions. Consort Deng chuckled. If Empress Hua is a fierce tiger, then Consort Chao is the tiger's claws. Yet, she hasn't gained much advantage over you, has she? Suddenly, her demeanor sobered. As long as you know who holds the blade, both tangible and intangible threats can be avoided. The true horror is suffering harm without even knowing who your opponent is. Her words were emphatic, causing her complexion to pale with a flush of exertion, struggling to suppress a cough and breathing heavily. Her maid immediately administered some medicine. I inquired, what illness do you suffer from, your highness, that never seems to improve? I know of an imperial physician with exceptional skills. Perhaps I could recommend him to treat you. Consort Deng's breathing eased somewhat and she gestured dismissively. There's no need for your concern, noble consort. I was injured years ago and now no medicine can help. I can only rest as much as possible. Seeing her insistence, I didn't press further. After seeing Consort Deng out through the side gate, Jinxi and I fell silent, aware of the perilous nature of our surroundings, where danger lurked at every turn. Jinxi, helping me into bed, knelt and said, Your Highness, don't overthink things, it's draining. Now that we know Empress Hua and Consort Chao are involved, we just need to be more vigilant. I leaned against the pillow, Consort Deng wasn't in the courtyard at the time, so she only knows part of the story. Can I afford to be less vigilant? Jinsi looked puzzled. Your Highness means? Empress Hua's necklace broke, nearly causing Lady Du to slip. When that failed, Consort K's squirrel suddenly became agitated and attacked. Isn't that strange? Cats might be restless in spring, but the squirrel was trained. How did it become violent in her hands? Jinsi's hands folding my clothes paused slightly. Your Highness means? I lowered my head. Consort K is the only consort with a son, Jinsi added. But Consort K has always been cautious, merely seeking self-preservation. I sighed. I hope I'm just overthinking, but I feel that if someone intends harm, it won't be the act of a single individual. After a pause, I added, what do you think of Consort Deng? She has been reclusive for years and needn't involve herself in these matters. Jinsi, finishing folding my clothes, slowly said, although I've been in the palace for many years and haven't interacted much with Consort Deng, I don't think she harbors ill intentions towards you. But she is certainly not someone to be trifled with. I lay down to sleep. Indeed, which is why I treat her with the utmost respect and adhere to protocol. I know everyone in the harem has their motives. Perhaps Consort Deng assisted me due to her discord with Empress Hua. Jinsi agreed. Yes. After blowing out the candle, we settled down to sleep, leaving only the sparse moonlight and the silhouetted branches by the bed.
Follow us to avoid getting lost and enjoy endless exciting stories. For more content, please go to the Story Wall homepage to view more exciting novels.